A substitute teacher in Vermont retired with $1.2 million on a $43,000 salary. And her secret wasn't a side hustle, an inheritance, or even particularly good luck. Welcome back. If you're new here, this channel is all about making money simple. Because finance doesn't have to feel like a college lecture you didn't sign up for. Today's video is called How Normal People Retire Wealthy. And I promise you, by the end of this, you are going to feel something you probably haven't felt in a while when it comes to your finances. You're going to feel genuinely hopeful. Not in a cheesy way. In a math-backed, real-world, this actually works kind of way. So stick with me. Let's start by completely dismantling the biggest lie in personal finance. The idea that you need to earn an extraordinary income to build extraordinary wealth. Let's say you make $50,000 a year. That's right around the median income in the United States. Some of you watching might make $60,000 or $70,000. Either way, you might look at that number and think, after taxes, after rent, after groceries, after that subscription service you forgot to cancel 3 years ago, there's just not enough left to become wealthy. And I hear you. That feeling is real. But the math tells a completely different story. Here's the thing that changed everything for me when I first learned it. Wealth isn't mostly about how much you earn. It's about how much you keep, how long you keep it, and where you put it while you're keeping it. That's it. 3 things. And we're going to break all 3 of them down today in a way that actually makes sense. Okay, so let's talk about the most powerful force in personal finance, compound interest. Now, before your eyes glaze over, I want you to imagine something with me. Picture a snowball at the top of a very long snowy hill. When you first push that snowball, it's tiny. It's almost embarrassingly small. You push it down the hill, and at first, it seems like nothing is happening. It picks up a little bit of snow here, a little there. But as it rolls further down the hill, something incredible starts to happen. That snowball isn't just getting a little bigger. It's getting dramatically bigger. Because now the entire surface of the snowball is collecting snow, not just a tiny part of it. By the time it reaches the bottom of the hill, that tiny little snowball you started with has become this massive, unstoppable force. That is compound interest. And your money is the snowball. Here's how it works in actual numbers. Let's say you're 25 years old and you start investing just $300 a month. That's $10 a day. Less than most people spend on coffee and random Amazon purchases they definitely didn't need. You invest that $300 a month into something that earns an average of 8% per year, which is actually below the historical average of the S&P 500. And you just leave it alone. You don't touch it. You let that snowball roll. By the time you're 65, you know how much money you'd have? Over $1 million. To be more specific, you'd have somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.1 million. But here's the part that will genuinely blow your mind. Of that $1.1 million, you personally only contributed about $144,000 over those 40 years. The other roughly $950,000 came from growth, from compounding, from your money making money, and then that money making more money, and then that money making even more money. It's like hiring an army of little workers who work for you every single day, around the clock, without ever asking for a raise or taking a vacation day. I love those guys. Now let me show you why starting early is the single most important decision you can make. Meet 2 people. Let's call them Early Emma and Late Larry. Emma starts investing at 25. She puts in $300 a month until she's 35, then she stops completely. She never invests another single dollar. Larry doesn't start until he's 35, but he invests $300 a month all the way until he's 65. That's 30 years of consistent investing compared to Emma's 10. Who ends up with more money at 65? Emma does, by a significant margin. Even though she invested for a third of the time Larry did. That is the power of starting early. Time in the market is the most valuable currency you have, and you can never buy it back once it's gone. So if you're young and watching this, please hear me on this. The best time to start was yesterday. The second best time is right now, today, after you finish this video. Now let's talk about where you're actually putting your money. Because this is where most people make a mistake that quietly costs them hundreds of thousands of dollars over their lifetime, without them even realizing it. Raise your hand if you have money sitting in a regular savings account at a bank. Most of you probably do, and that's great for your emergency fund. But here's the problem. The average traditional savings account at a big bank pays you somewhere around 0.4 to 1% interest per year. That sounds fine until you realize that inflation, which is basically the rate at which prices go up every year, tends to run around 2 to 3% annually. So your money in a regular savings account is actually losing purchasing power every single year. In other words, you're losing the race while standing still. That's not saving. That's slowly getting poorer in the most polite way possible. Now compare that to investing in a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. The S&P 500 is just a basket of 500 of the biggest companies in America. We're talking Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and 496 other companies you've definitely heard of. When you invest in an index fund that tracks the S&P 500, you're essentially buying a tiny piece of all 500 of those companies at once. And historically, that basket of companies has grown at an average of about 10% per year over long periods of time, even accounting for all the crashes, recessions, and terrifying economic moments that made people want to hide under their beds. Now, I want to be crystal clear here. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. You can absolutely lose money in the short term with index funds. The stock market goes up, it goes down, sometimes it goes way down, and it feels awful. But over long stretches of time, like the kind of time horizon we're talking about for retirement, the S&P 500 has been remarkably consistent. And unlike picking individual stocks, where you're basically gambling on whether one company is going to do well, an index fund spreads your risk across 500 companies. If one goes bankrupt, it barely moves the needle. And the cost matters too. Low-cost index funds, particularly through providers like Vanguard, Fidelity, or Schwab, charge you almost nothing to manage your money. We're talking expense ratios as low as 0.03% per year. That means for every $10,000 you have invested, you're paying about $3 per year in fees. $3. You probably spent more than that on the gas it took to drive to the ATM to take out cash you didn't need. Compared to actively managed mutual funds that can charge 1 to 2% per year, that difference in fees can cost you tens of thousands of dollars over your investing lifetime. Let's run a quick comparison, so this really sinks in. If you put $50 a month in a traditional savings account at 1% interest for 30 years, you'd end up with about $21,000. Not bad, but not exactly retirement material. If you instead invested that same $50 a month in an S&P 500 index fund averaging 8% returns over those same 30 years, you'd end up with around $68,000. Same amount of money invested. Completely different outcomes. That's the difference between where you put your money. Now scale that up to $300 or $500 a month, and you can start to see how those numbers get life-changing very quickly. All right. Let's talk about two of the most powerful retirement tools that the government has literally created to help you build wealth and pay less in taxes at the same time. And honestly, if you're not using these, you're leaving free money on the table, which I find physically painful to think about. First up, the 401k. If your employer offers a 401k with a company match, that is the single best investment you can make. Full stop. End of discussion. Here's why. A company match means your employer will contribute money to your retirement account based on how much you contribute. A very common arrangement is something like this. Your company will match 50% of your contributions, up to 6% of your salary. So if you make $60,000 a year and you contribute 6%, that's $3,600 from you. Your employer then throws in another $1,800. That's free money. Your employer is handing you $1,800 just for saving your own money. That is a 100% instant return on that matched portion. You will never, ever find a better guaranteed return on investment anywhere in the financial universe. If your company offers a match and you are not contributing at least enough to get the full match, I say this with the most genuine love and care I can possibly express through a camera lens, please fix that immediately. Before you pay off debt with extra money, before you do anything else financially, get that match. Because not doing so is literally saying no to free money, and none of us should be doing that. Now let's talk about the Roth IRA, which is maybe my favorite retirement account to talk about because it's just so elegant. A Roth IRA is an individual retirement account that you open yourself, separate from your employer. You fund it with money that you've already paid taxes on, meaning your contributions are not tax-deductible. But here's the magic. Everything inside that Roth IRA grows completely tax-free. And when you withdraw the money in retirement, you pay zero taxes on it. Zero. Not 5%, not 10%, nothing. Zilch. Think about what that means. If you're 25 and you put $6,000 into a Roth IRA this year, and that $6,000 grows to, let's say, $40,000 over the next 35 years, you don't owe a single penny in taxes on that $40,000 when you take it out. You already paid taxes on the original $6,000 when you earned it. The $34,000 in growth is yours, completely tax-free. When you're in retirement and your account has grown to $1 million, all of that is yours to keep without Uncle Sam taking his cut. That is genuinely amazing. For 2026, the contribution limit for a Roth IRA is $7,000 per year, or $8,000 if you're 50 or older. And there are income limits to be eligible. If you're single and making under $150,000 or so, you're generally in great shape to contribute. If you're earning $50,000 to $70,000 a year, which is exactly who this video is for, you are absolutely eligible and you should absolutely be using this. So here's the retirement strategy in simple terms. First, contribute enough to your 401k to get your full employer match. That's your absolute top priority. Second, open a Roth IRA and max it out if you can. If you can't max it out, contribute as much as you can. Third, if you've done both of those things and you still have more money to invest, go back and increase your 401k contributions. Fourth, let time do its thing and stop checking your account every day. Seriously, set it and forget it. The obsessive account checkers are their own worst enemies. Now let's bring this all together with a real example of how someone earning $60,000 a year can realistically retire with over $1 million. Millionaire Mike. Mike earns $60,000 a year. He's 28 years old. He's not rich. He's not some finance genius. He drives a used Honda. He contributes 6% of his salary to his 401k to get his full employer match. That's $3,600 from him, plus say $1,800 in matching contributions. He also contributes $3,000 a year to his Roth IRA. That's $250 a month. So between his 401k and Roth IRA, he's investing about $8,400 a year, which is $700 a month. That's about 14% of his gross income. Completely doable. If those investments grow at an average of 8% per year, after 37 years, when Mike is 65, he'd have approximately $1.4 million from a $60,000 salary, living a completely normal life. No side hustles required, no stock picking, no cryptocurrency gambling. Just consistent, boring, beautiful investing in low-cost index funds over a long period of time. That is the actual secret to building wealth that nobody talks about, because it's not exciting enough to go viral. But wait, let's talk about what he can actually do with that money in retirement. This is where the 4% rule comes in. The 4% rule is a guideline that says if you withdraw 4% of your total retirement savings in your first year of retirement, and then adjust that amount for inflation each year after that, your money should last at least 30 years. This rule came from financial research, specifically a study called the Trinity Study, which looked at historical market data and found that a 4% withdrawal rate gave retirees a very high probability of not running out of money over a long retirement. So if millionaire Mike has $1.4 million saved up, 4% of that is $56,000 per year. That's over $4,000 a month, plus whatever Social Security he receives on top of that. He went from earning $60,000 before taxes during his working years to having over $56,000 a year in retirement income from his investments alone. And this time, it's coming from accounts that are largely tax-advantaged. That is a massive win. Now, I want to talk about the emotional side of this for a minute, because the math is only part of the equation. The reason most people don't build wealth isn't because they can't. It's because they don't believe they can, so they never start. Or they start and then stop when the market drops and their account balance looks scary. I want to tell you something very directly. Every single person who has ever built wealth through investing has gone through periods where their account balance dropped. Some of them lost 30 or 40% of their portfolio value during major crashes. The ones who built wealth were the ones who kept investing anyway, kept their heads down, and trusted the long-term process. Your feelings about what the market is doing right now are your biggest enemy, not the market itself. Fear, panic, impatience, those are the things that separate people who end up wealthy from people who don't. So here is my challenge for you today. Before you go to sleep tonight, do one thing, just one. Either log into your HR portal and check what your company's 401k match situation is, or spend 15 minutes Googling how to open a Roth IRA at Fidelity or Vanguard or Schwab. One of those two things. That's it. You don't have to have everything figured out. You just have to take one step in the right direction, because that first step is the difference between being early Emma and being late Larry. And I really, genuinely want you to be early Emma. The path to retiring wealthy on a normal salary is not glamorous. It's not exciting. Nobody's going to write a movie about it. But it is absolutely, 100%, backed by decades of data real. You don't need to be a CEO. You don't need to win the lottery. You don't need to have invented something or been born into wealth. You need time, consistency, and the right accounts. That's the whole playbook. If this video was helpful and you actually learned something today, please hit that like button because it genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need to hear this stuff. Subscribe if you want more videos like this, because we are just getting started. And drop a comment below telling me where you are in your financial journey right now. Are you just starting out? Have you already started investing? Tell me, because I read every single comment and I love hearing from you all. I'll see you in the next one. Now go open that Roth IRA.